Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Daily Cannon Tactics Board. Stephen Bradley here, bringing you the tactical tweaks and quirks from Arsenal's last couple of pre-season games against Millwall and Watford, both 4-1 wins. Yay! You know, we're going to celebrate those like exactly the same way we were very downhearted over drawing to Rangers and losing to Hibs. Of course, we're not, but obviously, big news coming out of Arsenal today is that they've made a big signing, £50 million with Ben White, and we'll go over how he's going to fit in and what this means for all the other centre backs who are currently at the club, and in particular one who isn't. And if this is a video that you like, then please feel free to leave a like on it. Any sort of contribution or comments you might have on it, leave a comment below. And if you want these videos popping into your inbox on a regular basis, hit subscribe, hit the bell button, and these will pop up as soon as they come up. They usually come up after every game or after every big signing. That's always been the plan since the start, since last January, and it can be an irregular schedule, but as soon as big news like this happens today, you'll get a video. So yeah, let's get straight to it. We'll talk about Arsenal's number 4. Oh, that's awkward. 1 second. You never changed the number. Yes. What do you mean it's late on a Friday? We got a new lad in. It's fine. Sorry about that. You can't get the help these days. Anyway, Arsenal's new number 4, Ben White. It's a messy situation at best, as you can imagine. I'd love to know what William Saliba is thinking right now, seeing that not only has he been palmed off to another club for another season, but also they've given someone else his number. Yeah, I don't think the future for Mr. Saliba is quite bright at Arsenal, and I'll explain why in this video, but I'll also explain why I think Ben White is perfect for the way Mikel Arteta wants to play. And the best way to show this is quite simply two things. Number one, Brighton did a number of things with Ben White over the last season. Like they played a lot of 5 at the back and 4 at the back. They didn't really have a settled system. Graham Potter is an exceptional coach. Exceptional coach. If Gareth Southgate decides that the England job is too much for him, I would take Potter as an England coach in a heartbeat. I think he'd be brilliant for it. I certainly think he'd at least use his substitutes before the 110th minute. But he's an exceptional coach, and he's really good at putting players in positions where they can use their skill set well. And Ben White, the best way to describe Ben White is that he is a young David Luiz. And I know you might think, hang on, like Arsenal don't need a player like that. Arsenal absolutely do need a player like that. Because if you're looking for highlight packages of Ben White on YouTube to get yourself accustomed to what he is as a player, don't look at his Brighton footage. Go back a season. Go look at his Leeds footage. Go look at what an absolute progressive monster he was whilst playing for Marcelo Bielsa, that maniac of a tactician. He was phenomenal as basically almost a CB centre back / defensive midfielder who would see an oncoming striker at him and just dance around him. He is brilliant at taking on defenders and taking on tacklers. Throughout the Premier League last season, Ben White was number 1 in defenders at taking on players. Number 1. And this is why we brought him in. Because you'll see by the heat map, there's always a heat map on these videos, he played, like I said, they'll say he plays a little bit of defensive midfielder, and he can. But he predominantly plays down the right. And he can get forward a bit. Does he have many assists? No. But that's not his job. He's almost a centre-back version of Alexander Hleb. His job is to get the ball to someone who can do damage with it. And he's brilliant at it. And to compare him to the player that was playing in this position for Arsenal last year was Rob Holding. Look at those heat maps. I'll sync them up for you there and there. Holding, Ben White. Holding, Ben White. You can see how much you can see how much of the ball Rob Holding would have in games for Arsenal, where he would be constantly on the ball and getting across the halfway line quite often. Holding, occasionally we'd label him as Holdinho for his, because he's not bad at bringing the ball forward, but he's certainly not great. Even here it says that his best part is defending, and he's a decent centre back. But Ben White is better at dribbling past people. He's a better passer, and he's better at just finding an open man. And this is going to be key for the way that Mikel Arteta builds his side, because let's just say, for argument's sake, I think this is going to be the team, by the way. Maybe Ben White doesn't start the first game against Brentford on Friday fortnight, but I think that this will be the team you see until Gabriel comes in. And then you'll get games where Arsenal will play like that. And here's why. Let's just say Brentford line up 4-5-1, or whatever our team is lining up with 4-5-1. If you're a regular viewer of these videos, you know exactly what shape I'm going to put Arsenal in. It's the 3-2-5 that they play. Tierney bombs on. Gabriel will spread wide. This is usually Holding. And now Callum Chambers, who is nailed on now to be first choice right back. And I'll show you why in a minute. Pepe goes as wide as possible. Sambi comes a little bit deeper. Partey pushes on. Aubameyang pushes it there. Smith Rowe pushes there. And you end up with this. You're 3-2-5. All simple so far. The problem that Arsenal run into so often last year when they were building the ball up is that you can kind of pick your poison with this setup when you're defending. If Arsenal are going to line up with 5, you go back with 5. You line up nice and narrow. You double on the wide players. And what you basically do is, and then you stick your forward there. These can come forward occasionally. Centre backs are here, and your middle centre back is now there. And what they are telling you to do, because he will be here and he will be here, what they are telling you to do is go on, pass it down the wings as much as possible. We've got all the cover in the world. Right? And what would happen was Arsenal would consistently wait for a good ball, then find, Chambers would find it to Pepe. Pepe would occasionally come in here. Chambers would often run down this way, trying to create an overload, trying to get the defence to all basically cave in this way, then come back and push the ball back over. But more often than not, he'd get to here, find that there was 4 lads in front of him. Smith Rowe would then come back deep looking for the ball because there was no space, and the ball would come back here, and the ball would go to Gabriel, and then the defence would all just shuffle back across. And then Smith Rowe would come back for it. Pepe would stay wide just to try and, create a bit of space, but they wouldn't care. And what would happen all pretty much for 5-6 minutes at a time, ball would come over here, defence shuffles over, ball will go back, defence shuffles over. Because they're just making sure that Arsenal don't have space out wide, trying to tempt them to putting into a cross for the one player that they'll have usually in the centre, in the penalty box. So this is why coaches like Pep Guardiola have changed football, because you can affect defences 2 ways. Either number 1, you affect it with numbers, or number 2, you affect it with speed. Why Jurgen Klopp created a monster at Liverpool for 15 months is because he had 3 centre forwards who were there, and his full backs were here, and then his midfielders were there, and his 2 centre backs were here, and he just squeezed you. He made sure that you played your football in your half. Yeah, it's very simple, but good God, it works. And then you rely on your 2 centre-backs to cover a lot of space, and when one of them is as quick as Joe Gomez and one of them is as unbelievable as Virgil van Dijk, you can do it. The other way, a lot more complicated, but maybe slightly more effective, is the Guardiola way. And what Guardiola has tried to do over the last number of years is just create as many overlaps as possible. I label it as chaos on this channel a few times, and we had a commenter say, is that the plan? Is chaos the plan? Or our player, he was commenting on the fact that Xhaka's heat map was all the way on the left, and he was saying, well, of course it would be. He's left-footed. He's been asked to play there. He's been asked to play in a certain spot. That's the obvious reason why he's there, and he's right. But the point I'm trying to make is that Mikel Arteta has learned from Guardiola that the more players you can have in space and the less reliant they are on having a set position, the more difficult it is to mark, because even if the defence is set up in a back five, if Aubameyang can play here and Lacazette can play here, remember, no Saka. This is the team I think will play against Brentford. That's why Saka isn't on this team. But if you want to take out Pepe and play Saka, Saka can play here, Smith Rowe can play here, Lacazette can go here, Chambers can go wide right. Ben White can play right back, so he can go wide right. And then, as we've seen sometimes, whether it's Xhaka last year or Elneny does it before, Sambi can come back and Partey can come in the middle, and then suddenly it's 3-1-6. And that's what I mean by chaos. If you don't know where the attack is going to be, you can't stay in position, because if you're told to man mark someone, you can't man mark them where you don't know where they're going to be. So why is this important for Ben White? It's important for Ben White because if Arsenal line up like this and the fullback's staying deep because Tierney's there, and the winger is also marking Tierney because he doesn't want Tierney to get the ball, and one of the two centre defensive midfielders is hedging over to this side to give a little bit of help just in case Sambi and Smith Rowe joins in, although this would probably be Aubameyang, Lacazette and Smith Rowe there. If they are hedging all their defence to the right, and Sambi's there and Sambi's there, you have two choices. Either one, you lob balls into this space, which is what Arsenal did a lot of last year. When David Luiz was playing, he'd sit here and he'd just spray balls left and right. Okay, but what a lot of teams did was they would just sit back and wait. Even with five at the back, they would just drop him there, and they're like, right, okay, on you go, lads. What space are you going to drop it into? What are you going to do? So either Gabriel and Chambers are now running into areas where there's a lot of defenders, or they go in the middle. And you don't really want these players to go in the middle, because if they go in the middle, then if you lose the ball, it's a counter-attack. But you don't mind if one of those players is really, 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 really good at beating his man. And that's where Ben White comes in. Again, Ben White was the best centre-back at beating players off the dribble all year. And what Arsenal are now going to do is Arsenal are going to put Ben White there, right there in the middle. And the ball's going to come to him. And because Ben White is like David Luiz, and he's got that sand wedge to the left, to the right-hand side, and he's got that sand wedge to the left-hand side, you have to stay back. Because you have to credit the fact that he can find Tierney from 60 yards. And he can find Saka from 60 yards. But you absolutely cannot, these two centre defensive midfielders, and even the third one here, you cannot give up this space. Because if this centre forward presses, Ben White's past him. He will pass him every time. And now all of a sudden Ben White's here. And now you've 8 on 9. This is not good. Like, Sambi, who can play left and right, Partey, who can play left and right, Tierney, who's going to hug here, Saka, who's going to hug here, and then you got 3 players that can do whatever the hell they want. This is, as a defensive coach, your worst nightmare. Because what do? It needs one good lick at White to Smith Rowe, centre back comes forward, Saka gets in there. Centre back doesn't come forward, Smith Rowe turns around, then this centre back forward, and now Aubameyang and Lacazette can both get in. If they cover, if they scoot across, now Smith Rowe can find Tierney. you have to react once someone's there, because you can't just let Ben White just keep coming forward with the ball. And it's always what's always been fascinating to me is how football has evolved from the 30s and the 40s to how it is today, when teams would play with 2-3-5. In the early internationals, it was two half backs almost, three centre midfielders, and then five forwards. And yet Arsenal are going to line up at times 2-3-5. And maybe even more hilariously, let's just say Gabriel and Chambers just step back a bit so that White can bomb on forward, right? So White's here, Partey will go a little bit wide, Sambi will go a little bit wide, okay? Tierney will be here, Aubameyang will go in this corner, Lacazette will come deep to try and link up, Smith Rowe will go in here, and Saka will be wide. You know how Herbert Chapman revolutionised football for Arsenal? If you know the name of the formation. If you don't know the name of the formation, it was called a WM. Well, right now, Arsenal are playing an MW. It's baffling, but amazing just how over the course of almost 100 years, where Arsenal have gone from literally playing one formation and going to the other, and it's literally just flipping it. And just the way positional play has worked. But in this scenario, Saka can play here, Smith Rowe can play here, Sambi can play here, Partey can play here. These 5 players can move around what they want. And as a result, these defenders have to move around all they want. And that's why having Ben White there is crucial. Because there aren't many centre-backs in world football who can do this. I'm thinking Sergio Ramos-esque. That's the level of player that you need. That's just going to step forward. Van Dijk can do it. Just step forward, beat the lad who's immediately dribbling at him or pressing him, and then just carrying on and then finding the ball. It's why Santi Cazorla was so good for Arsenal, because he would do it here. Ben White can do it here. And because where there would be times where, I'll put everyone back, let's say Ben White does beat the first man, and the defence decides, okay, right, we're going to cadge in here. We're going to make sure you can't do that. We're going to make sure that the middle is nice and solid, and these spaces aren't going to be there. Well, now, if they do this, now you can play wide, because Ben White can go here. And now Chambers can beat it. And just the fact that Arsenal have both of these available to them at the same time is crucial, because now the defence just can't have one plan. Now it has to prepare for both. Now these two their left winger and their left centre midfielder both have to be extremely alert on the fact that they could either be there or there. And if they get it wrong, they're screwed. And most of the time with attacks, it's the threat of an attack that is more effective, because in the defender's mind, he knows that either he has to be there or there. He has, in his head, he goes, well, I have to be that side because Saka's going to be there, but I have to also be that side because Ben White might run past me. And what he ends up doing is standing in the middle and doing neither. If let's just say the left winger is being told, look, Chambers is a danger down here, you're going to have to stay there. And then Ben White comes this way. Everyone will do this because they know Ben White can go down here, and then suddenly. But Ben White's also good enough to see that if this team does this to try and cover him off, he's got that 60-yard pass to Tierney in his pocket. It's little things like that which make Ben White a perfect fit for the way Mikel Arteta wants to play. And it's also an illustration of why the previous Arsenal number 4, even though he never played a minute for Arsenal in a competitive game, will very likely not play a competitive game for Arsenal, because Ben White fits into this system like a glove. William Saliba, for all his strengths, fits into this system like a cinder block. And it's for one very simple but very, very important reason. Again, here's Ben White. Here's Rob Holding. There's William Saliba. Now, there's nothing wrong with a left-sided, right-footed centre-back. Again, Virgil van Dijk is one. But when you are playing the way Mikel Arteta wants to play, this player here has to be left-footed. Has to. For one simple reason. These two players here. Let's get everyone else out of the way for a second. Gabriel is left-footed so that he can find that ball to Tierney easy. So that it is just nice inside of the foot, around this defender, he can curve it around him. It's an easy pass, and it's a natural pass. With the right foot, it's a lot more difficult because you got to drive it over the defender or around the defender. So you pick a left-footed player there because it's just a natural play. Because he's left-footed, their right winger has to be here. Has to. Because he has to be able to stop that and stop Gabriel running this way. So he has to be here. Right? Now, because he's split out wide, this means the defensive midfielder has to cover over a bit, which now gives the middle a little bit of space. Right? If this player is right-footed, let's just say Chambers is playing left-sided centre-back for a minute. Because this player now knows that Chambers hasn't got a very good left foot, he now knows that he doesn't have to be there. He can now be there. And I know this looks like 5 yards, and you're right, it's not a huge difference, but just the fact that he can just scoot over, he can cheat, basically. He doesn't have to worry too much about this, because if Chambers, with his bad foot, makes that pass, fair enough. You take it. If you're going to give Callum Chambers 20 passes with his left foot to Kieran Tierney, how many is he going to make? Half, maybe. So if you're their right winger, you can do a couple of jobs. You can now be there because you can now get in the way. You don't have to be all the way over here because you have to give credit for the fact that it's the left footer and you have to go in. So because he's now here, that means he can now go here. Because the right winger is now basically doing his job. He's covering off this space. That means Sambi is now being marked a lot closer than usual. So he's going to have to come back and find space. It now means Partey now has to scoot over. And suddenly, everyone's over on the right. Because the defence can now shift over a lot more this side because they don't have to defend this side. And because of that, suddenly Arsenal don't have as much space over here. Again, if he's there, then he has to come here, then he has to come here, and he has to come here, and he has to come here. And if, again, the exact same works on this side. So if this lad's right-footed, then you have to give it the credit there, which means you can see how it's very easy to spread a team apart, which is what Arsenal are trying to do. Create openings, create gaps, create these little passing lanes through here. Which means you have to be able to pass it round the side of them on both sides. If this player isn't left-footed, you can't do it on this side. And as a result, they just cheat to the other side. And now suddenly, you're basically hoping that your right-footed player can make left-footed passes. It's why when Xhaka was at left-back, he was really good at progressing the ball because he's fantastic on his left foot. But when it came to actually defending, not so much. It's why, as much as William Saliba wants to play, and as good as a defender he might be, he can't play there. And because he sits deep and plays long balls and doesn't run forward a lot, he's not going to be able to prevent teams from just this. Because he's not going to take that man on. And as a result, Arsenal will find themselves with the same defensive blockades that they found last season. Ben White changes the way teams have to defend against Arsenal, because no longer can you just wait on their defense, on our defense, I should say, to make a mistake, because now our defenders can beat players with the ball too. And now we have the opportunity to beat you with numbers. It's the Pep Guardiola way, and it's very, very quickly becoming the Mikel Arteta way, where it's everybody's a threat, and the more threats you have, the more problems you cause in opposition. So is it Saliba's fault that he's not a good fit for Arsenal? No. But it's not Mikel Arteta's fault either. You know, this is the way he wants to play, and Saliba was a player that wasn't bought by him. And it's a shame, but it's like moving into a new house. You know, you take a look at the kitchen, it's been designed in a colour that you don't like, you paint over it. It doesn't matter how much the previous owners and previous occupiers paid on their paint. You know, if you don't like it, you paint over it. Mikel Arteta is painting over the whole of this team. And Ben White is a damn good coat of paint. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how he fits in at Arsenal. If you did enjoy this video, again, feel free to leave a like on it. If you've got any comments on it and how you think he's going to fill in, maybe I've missed something, maybe you've got your own analysis, feel free to leave a comment down below. We're slowly but surely building a fantastic community of, you know, active, you know, engaged, and frankly rather well informed people who are chiming in and certainly influencing the way I do these videos and influencing my opinion. So, you know, thank you to all of you who comment on a regular basis. And yeah, if you want these videos in your inbox on a regular basis, hit the subscribe button, hit that little bell, and they'll be available to you as soon as they're released. And yeah, hopefully we'll have another player signed before the Brentford game in 2 weeks, but we will see you soon. Good luck.